Good morning, class. On today's episode of Mr. Jamie on Campus, we've got to prepare for our production of Annie Jr. coming up in a couple of months. So I'm going to take a men's dress shirt and a bed sheet and make a costume for an orphan. My daughter Sarah Grace and I shot this footage back in January of 2018. We had a large cast of orphans, and I wasn't going to be able to make all the costumes myself, so I thought I would make this video with the hopes that the students' parents and grandparents would use it to make their own. Now, in the end, we made most of the costumes in the class as a group. I never published the video, but I did share some images with my cast and their parents. If you're planning a production of Annie, or if you want to make an orphan costume for Halloween, then this video should help. Now, before we start building this costume, will you take a moment and subscribe to this channel? And click the bell icon so you can be notified when the next video drops. And please, share this video with your theater friends. Okay, well, let's get started. To begin with, I'll button the shirt, and then I'm going to pin it and sew the shirt closed, all the way down. And that will help hold everything together in its shape while we're cutting it up. You don't have to sew it down both edges. I'm going to. I've already sewn a line on this side. I don't need pins anymore. Backstitch a little to set the thread. Now that it's sewn in, I can turn it inside out and it should stay in place. Next, I press the shirt inside out and put it on Sarah Grace so I can mark and pin alterations I need to make. I mark the sleeve length and pin the torso, the armpit, and the sleeve width. On the table, I mark the pins with chalk and remove them. And then, using those marks, I draw straight lines to clearly indicate the sew line of the alteration that I want to make. I also drew a straight line on the sleeve for the cut, and I cut the sleeve on that line. To make it easier to sew the alterations, I pinned the sleeve perpendicular to the chalk line. Next, I mark the bottom of the shirt where I want to cut it, just above the belly button. I use the pins on the sides to draw a straight chalk line up the side. And like the sleeve, I pin up the sides perpendicular to that chalk line. It's important to make both sides of the garment the same, so using a sewing gauge, I transferred the measurements to the other side. And now, I just repeat all of those same steps on the other side. I marked and pinned the sides and sleeves, and then cut off the sleeve and the bottom of the shirt at the chalk line. The next step is to sew up the sides and turn the garment, and then sew up the sleeve on both sides. I change my mind all the time on whether or not I'll sew over pins. On this machine, I tend to break more needles when I sew over the pins, so as I approach each pin, I remove them with my fingernail. I try to remember to put the pins in heads to the left to make it easier. You can see how much harder it is if the pins are on the right. I plan to reattach the cuffs to the end of the sleeves, so I'm cutting off the length of the cuff minus a seam allowance. And still inside out, I'm trimming the excess material to the outside of the stitches I just made. Now I want to reattach the cuffs. The cuff needs to be shortened to fit Sarah Grace's little wrist. So I measured and cut it on the button side and then reattached the button. Then I did the same steps to the other side and the other sleeve. It's time to test the fit. The rest of the shirt will be used as the bottom of the dress. We want it to look like it was a really long shirt hanging out from under her pinafore. I took new measurements to decide how long and how wide to make the pinafore part of the costume. Sarah Grace didn't like the plain dark green bed sheet that I had chosen, so she chose some more colorful material that I had. Since this one has an up and a down, I'm going to have to cut it and flip the back side so that when we look at her in the back, the flowers aren't upside down. I'm going to put a pin at the shoulder. Okay. Find where the bottom of the armhole is going to be. Now, this is an apron thing, so it needs to kind of be a big hole because your shirt's there. But I want to make sure that where I'm pinning this, you've still got the inside shirt is low enough so that it covers it. This one, you got plenty of shirt, so let's come way down here. And the shirt, see, will come through it. We want to see the shirt. We'll just come down a little, like where the collar is. I can kind of feel where the collar is under there. I'm going to use this orange Sharpie for the drawing on this material since it's so dark on the other side. I'm going to use various curves that I have. Got these 3 curves to help make a nice symmetrical pattern. I folded my material in half and I managed to come up with what I believe the half of the front will look like. Now this line represents the line I will sew. It's not, there's going to be, when I trim it, there's going to be a little allowance there. So I'll sew this line and I'll sew that line. And I will not sew this line, so I'm going to do an allowance here, and I'll trim the neck hole out and hem that a little bit later. Now I want to transfer this line to the other side, and so the way I do that is put a pin through 2 points. Now where this curve starts, I'm going to go right in the intersection of the curve. But I want to come out right on my line. So those are accurate points. Again, I'm coming this one right in the intersection of the curve. Come out there. The pins represent the straight line. And everywhere where there's a pin, I can put a mark. Once I spread the garment out on the table again, I could use my curves to complete the neckline and the armholes, being sure to leave seam allowance for each. This we're going to have to hem, so roughly a 1/2 inch allowance here. Now, and then this will sew across. This will have to stay open, so this is a hem. This is a hem. These are sewed together. To keep all of the edges and sew lines neatly lined up, I tend to put pins anywhere that the material might fall open and accidentally get trapped under the foot of the sewing machine. I machine sewed all of the lines marked "Sew Together." So now we need the back of the neck curve, and I'm going to remeasure. It only needs to come down about 2 inches. This is going to end up being hemmed, so about 2 inches from there. And we need to remeasure this opening. It's 7 1/4, so that'd be 3 5/8 across. Would be the new center. 3 5/8 right there is the new center line to there. I'll make myself a straight line using those 2 dots. Needs to start where that cut is. Let me get my bigger curve. Okay, that should be it. Okay, well, we have the pinafore dress roughed out. Let's turn it to the right side and see if it fits. It's going to be embarrassing if it doesn't fit, isn't it? So, let me turn the hems under and get your collar out.
It's like part of a girl and part of a boy.
That's right. Okay. So we'll turn that under. Let me turn around the back. Looks pretty good. I could let that go higher, couldn't I? I'll probably dip that to my... So in yours, maybe do a 1 inch instead of a 2 inch. Leave it that length. So all we have to do is turn this under, straighten this side out, and then sew it around the bottom. Okay, and we'll be done. All right. Next, I'm going to pull the seams tight and press them open. So the next part is easier. The bottom of the shirt, I made a tube. Put it over the top of the dress, right side out. Lined it up with the bottom, turned it under, pinned it, and sewed it, just so that we have this little nice little hemmed edge to the bottom of the dress. Then I found out how much I wanted to hang down below the dress. You can see I wanted it right where the button comes below it and shows. So I folded it nice and even and pressed it right there. And then I ran out of brown thread, so I changed to this olive green thread. And so then I sewed olive green all the way around to pin it up there. And when you turn it right side out, I'll give you the front look. It looks like the little shirt dress is hanging out from under it. You even have a little bit of this if it flips up. Now, if this shirt was just about the same size as the opening of the dress, so that's how it had to look. But if you got a bigger shirt, it would look even better. In fact, this one I had to take a piece of the sleeve and add a little section in just to make it big enough. So anyway, this olive green was just, it needs to be invisible from the stage so that it looks like this is just hanging out from underneath. So all I have left to do is turn under and hem the armholes and the head opening. Maybe put some pockets on here. I have to decide. I'm not sure. And then fix the cuffs on the shirt. Okay, well, we got to deal with the collar now. And what I've done is I wanted to make it just a simple little rounded kind of feminine collar. And so I took one of these shapes and I found about where I wanted it. Actually, I think it was this way, yeah. Just like that. and I used my chalk and traced around it. And with my Sharpie, I made 2 marks. One at the end, right on the curve where the collar began and where it intersected with the outside edge. So then I could flip it over and do the same thing and have a symmetrical design. Now, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this and see what it looks like. I'm going to cut a little on the outside here. I'm going to rip this seam and that seam, try to tuck it under and re-stitch it so that it looks like it was designed that way originally, and just see what that looks like. I'm going to repin this and then sew it. Alright, well there's the finished collar. I think it makes it look a lot more feminine than it did. I think I'll leave it like this. I don't think I'll add a new collar to that. I think I've decided that I'm going to put just one pocket right there using this green plaid material. But I want it to be a large pocket, so thinking, let's see, 6 inches square. We'll give it a try. All right, well here's the finished product. I'm very pleased with it. Turn around, Sarah. Looks pretty good from the back. Turn back around. If I do it again, or when I do it again, I'm going to make overall the dimensions a little bit bigger so that it's a little bit baggier. And then also, this is really too pretty to use for the Orphan apron, this print. So in order for this to be ready to use in the show, we're going to have to really age it, fade it, damage it a little bit to make it look like an Annie Orphan sort of thing. Thank you, Sarah Grace, for helping Dad do this. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. And if you follow these basic steps many times using shirts and sheets of different colors and patterns, you can have a stage filled with little orphan girls too. Now, let's help each other out. In the comments section below, tell me what you would have done differently or what other variations on this design you might try. Also, send me pictures of your Annie Orphan costumes that you've made. I'd love to show the rest of the audience. You can send your photos to jamie@mrjamie.com. Now, if you liked the video, please give a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, then click that subscribe button right now and press the bell icon so YouTube will let you know when the next video drops. And please share this channel with your friends. We need to let folks know that we're out here. I've had a great time, and I look forward to the next time we're together here on Mr. Jamie on Campus. If you like classic arcade games like these, or old cartridge games like these, then check out my other channel, Mr. Jamie's Arcade. We find them, we fix them, we save them from a landfill. 'Tis a just and glorious cause.